Farm4Profit Podcast. Take a listen, have a blast. Farm4Profit Podcast. Learn about farming while having a laugh. Farm4Profit Podcast.
Hey, listeners, welcome back to the Farm4Profit Podcast. This is Tanner.
This is Corey.
And I'm excited to be back in studio.
It does feel good. We haven't been in here for a while.
I know. It's post-harvest-ish.
I mean, you're still harvesting.
Hopefully
As we record this on November 7th.
Hopefully we get done today.
Yeah?
Is it?
You need to because there's rain coming in tonight.
Is it over emotional? I mean, it's not my crop, right? I help my in-laws during the fall harvest. Am I over emotional that I might not be there for the last day?
You don't seem like it.
I kind of like.
Are you worried?
I don't know. I don't believe it's going to be the last day. I think there'll be a chance to go help finish up tomorrow.
Yeah.
But it's still been a good fall. Hopefully for you listeners, it's been a great fall. We want to share with you a new way to connect with Farm4Profit.
Oh yeah, how's that?
By emailing us at connect@farm4profit.com. So we aren't getting rid of farm4profitllc@gmail.com, but you can now email us directly to connect@farm4profit.com. Still hit us up on social media platforms. Bother Corey on Snapchat and let us know who we should be talking to in 26. Already got some really good plans in place to focus on that overall profitability and ways that we can make your farm more efficient.
Yep. And you can always call or text us, 515-207-9640.
Holy smokes. Did our phone blow up on Monday and Tuesday of this week?
Why?
The ones that I answered were all about, have you voted? You should vote for this person. Voting matters.
It was all bots?
Wow. That was intense.
Did you vote?
I did. Did you vote?
I did.
Yeah. It's important. We appreciate all of you. So excited to jump into this. Also, coming up, we will let you know where we're traveling this winter trade show season. Hopefully we come to an area in your neck of the woods.
But let's get seem to be growing.
It does. It does. We may sleep in someone else's bed more often than our own.
That doesn't sound good.
Somebody else owns the hotel.
Yeah, I guess.
Or the Airbnb. Man, oh man. Today's topic, though, excited to connect with Brad Burkhart. He's the market development specialist for Corteva AgriSciences. He's frequently providing his expertise on agronomic practices, particularly weed management for corn and soybean growers, and what types of plans, what the importance of timely applications are going to be, and what we saw this year that our listeners can provide and use for the field in 2026. So important for you to stick around on this episode and get to meet Brad. Welcome to the podcast.
Glad to be here, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Brad, where are you coming from today?
So I am live here in Evansville, Indiana, so the southwest part of the state of Indiana.
Meet Maya Cornheads, built better for over 40 years to power through down corn, high yields, and tough fields without flinching.
These durable, low-maintenance heads mean less downtime, less grain loss, and more profit per acre. They have the option for down corn attachments or direct-driven chopping. They ensure that your combine will move smoothly, fast, and full at all times.
Don't just harvest your fields, conquer them. Visit MayaCornheads.com to find the dealer near you.
Okay. Are you related to Mike Burkhart?
I am not, but I do get, we have the same spelling, so I get that a little bit.
And you live in the same townish. Right,
Yeah,
isn't he close?
I think close too. Yeah, yep.
Yeah, it could be a distant relative that I don't know. So, but I do get that asked a lot. So
I don't know if that's a fortunate or unfortunate thing. We'll just kind of let the area decipher that one for themselves.
So, Brad, give us a little background about yourself, your role at Corteva and in agriculture.
yeah, no. So, like I said, born and raised here in the state of Indiana. So I got into agriculture about 2008. I had a little different path, which I think some of your listeners here will either hate or love, but I went to a different school in the state of Indiana. Most people go to Purdue to study ag. I actually was at Indiana University studying chemistry. So I graduated with a bachelor's of science in chemistry. And so back in the day, in the ag world, there was kind of a shortage of people around 2007 to 2008. and there needed to be some extensive hiring. Well, I was a fortunate recipient of that. And so my grandparents, they actually farm Logansport, Indiana. And I've got some ties to Southern Illinois, where I also farm over there. So I grew up around agriculture. I just didn't first go to school for agriculture. So company took a chance on me. I actually moved up to North Dakota. So basically, we had a training program at the time where you were kind of on we'll call it a probationary status, where we're going to try out some new people and see if we can train them into ag. So ended up in North Dakota, but then I had to find myself over at Purdue quite a bit, taking some short agronomy courses and learning things at Purdue. So anyway, being a Hoosier, you had to eat a little humble pie and go study at Purdue. But honestly, it's one of the greatest things I've ever done. I guess on the job training and the learning in the field has been it's been very rewarding. So fast forward 17 years later, I finally got to get back to my hometown. So currently I'm a market development specialist with Corteva. What that means is, so we kind of support our local territory managers and work a lot with the local retailers for the state of Indiana and then also Eastern Illinois. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. 17 years. I've seen a lot of things over the years. Things have changed quite a bit from 2008 to where we're at now. But obviously we're going to talk a little bit about that later in the podcast. But we're really glad to be here and glad to just have a conversation around ag, because it's my passion and that's what we do every day.
You watch college football?
I've watched a few games. I might have been to a few games here recently this year. Actually, so I've got a daughter. She's actually a junior at IU right now. So we frequently are a visitor of that.
Well, you're having a good run this year, and unfortunately, we've kind of stalled out here at Iowa State. Hopefully by the time this show airs, the ship's been turned around for us. And for the sake of it, I hope you guys keep doing well too.
Appreciate that.
Appreciate that. Yeah. I don't even know what we can do to salvage our season.
It almost feels like we don't want to salvage it. Like it's gone so far back. It's like, I don't even want to go to a bowl game at this point,
Yeah. But that's a bummer. Well, it's probably fun to be on the train that you're riding right now out there. So enjoy it.
I appreciate it. It's been it's a little different than when I was there. I'll put that out there as a disclaimer. So,
yeah. So what's your area? Are you just in Indiana or do you go larger than that?
So it's a little bit bigger. So our districts, if you will, kind of line. So Eastern Illinois. So we get up go to Champaign County, go north all the way up to Chicago. It's kind of that Eastern Illinois corridor. We've also got some retailers with their footprint. We actually get up into Michigan and over in Ohio a little bit just because of their size. So basically, but we've got 9 territory managers that I work with basically on a daily, just doing agronomics. We'll do sales things. A lot of it's really focused on new product launches and trials and things like that out in the field.
Okay. Yeah.
So why don't you give us just a general 30,000 foot view of harvest in your area, and we can kind of give one for Iowa. I guess we know pretty well.
Yeah. So I mean, every year there's always opportunities and challenges, right? I mean, that's the nature of the beast in farming, and it's you once that seed's out of that bag, whatever happens to it is either we're trying to reduce the risk to get grain at the end of the season. And, this year was no different, especially for us in Indiana. We had a pretty wet spring in a lot of places, and it continued to stay wet throughout basically the growing season until about midsummer. Then it completely shut off dry. So that creates some challenges, right? With nitrogen loss, with weed control and disease, right? I mean, that's the 3 things that we're always influenced by weather every year. So for most part, though, corn still ended up pretty darn good. I mean, we had some spots where, it was pretty dry that we did fall off a little bit just because of that. And then obviously we had some great disease pressure, which I'm sure we'll probably talk later in the podcast. But, Southern rust, it was the worst I think I've seen since 2015. So I just thought that year sticks, really in my head. It was incredible. And then obviously you guys know what you're dealing with up there. Soybean disease wasn't too bad this year. I mean, we get a little Cercospora, just it's the usual suspects, but it wasn't too bad. We do have some pockets where we get white mold pretty bad. It wasn't as bad this year, but it always is a concern. And, if you've got it, you've got to plan ahead and make sure you're doing the right thing for that. But soybean yields, very strong. I mean, I would say everybody was very pleased, mostly on the most part, with soybean yield. So all in all, pretty good year. Not a knockout bin buster type of year, but at the end of the day, I think we're all going to come back and try it again next year. Is what it looks like. So
yeah,
that's one way to put it, right?
Yeah, and we've had a little bit of a small rally in the commodities here late harvest. That's pumped a little bit of hope back in. We're not probably all the way whole yet, but that's certainly helped. I know over here, more in the Iowa region, we have probably been more disappointed with yields, I would say. There's some pockets of good. No disasters, it doesn't seem like, but we were wet most of the season, and we just can't handle that much moisture. If you had any roll or you had good tile, that's going to really pay this year. But that southern rust came up and kicked our butt, made it look like it was November in early September, and we just didn't have that grain fill. And fungicide paid really well. 2 times the fungicide paid even better.
Yeah, it paid for itself. That
it ROI'd more than paying for itself. So that's where we're at. I would say same with soybeans though. 15% better than expected for us, and probably corn 10 to 15% below expected.
Yeah, it was quite interesting on our farms. My parents in Northwest Iowa, kind of similar situation. If you sprayed, you saw the benefit of the fungicide on the corn side of things. Most were very happy with their beans. That 10 to 20% above what expected. Here, central Iowa, it was goofy because you could have the same number planted within the same time frame, less than a week apart, on fields in different parts of the county, and see complete differences. And the best to your knowledge is maybe a little bit of soil type for drainage, but it really came down to, did fungicide have a 4-day difference application? Was it to a point to where you really saw that grain fill issue come this fall, or it caught a rain that we didn't catch?
It's not even by the day, it's by the hour.
Oh.
We had a neighbor, big Corteva customer, actually had Corteva come in and do some, I'll call it CSI work, I would say, because he had a drone and spraying fungicide. And then, anyway, something popped up and said, "Oh, you're too close to the airport." So the drone had to quit, only was able to spray half the field. Called in a plane. I don't know if the plane got there that evening or the next morning. I think it was that evening is what they said. But just hours later, the plane showed no difference in yield than the drone did. But what they're finding, Corteva in this area found that it was really hot that day, and there was like a rain or something that evening at like 11 o'clock at night. And they're saying that messed up any application done after X hour, in the day.
That's interesting because we had fields that typically outperform on the soybean side compared to others, and they flip-flopped this year. So still overall happy on the soybean yields, and the same thing, such a big swing on the corn side. So very interesting to hear here. I'm not seeing as many grain piles, and when we do deliver, the lines haven't been that long.
Yeah, you can definitely know they have strengthened basis at the end users for both corn and beans, really on the corn side. So you can tell around here they're maybe asking for a little bit more corn because they didn't get fulfilled. So,
yeah.
But anyway, to get to these points of harvest, you have to start good and you have to treat your crops good. I mean, what did you see, Brad, this year that was winners? What was some things that maybe you need to go back to the drawing board on?
So, every year it's this time of the year, it's the best time to start making that plan, right? We got, prepays coming up. You just got through harvest. Probably where you had some trouble spots in those fields. And the biggest thing I see for us that we're fighting in Indiana and Eastern Illinois is just Waterhemp. I mean, Waterhemp, the shift it has made in the last 5 years, from, years ago, we were talking about mare's tail, giant rag, just, a lot of other different weeds, cocklebur, which those are all still, challenges that we face. But Waterhemp probably is top of mind on, I'd say, every farmer probably in the Midwest right now. And so where I go with that, rewinding the year, what I saw, and a little bit of it concerns me, is we saw, grain prices that were a little weak, right? And so I think what some operators do, and I'll even throw my uncle in this category. Like, hey, how do we save some cost, right? What could we do up front? And I always get weary. Like, there's a lot of places I think you can cut costs on the farm, but when you start cutting out herbicides, or maybe you've been using a good residual that's got 3 modes of action, and maybe all of a sudden you went down to 1 mode. That really showed this year because of how early those weeds broke, because of the amount of rainfall and the pressure that we put on that system. So when I rewind and look back, it was like, so we had some plots actually out in central Illinois where we've kind of got a brand ladder when it comes to things at Corteva. We've got, the Cadillac program. So like we've got a new liquid soybean Kyber Pro. It's 3 modes of action. It's got pyroxysulfone, metribuzin, and flumioxazin. So you've got your group 15, your group 5, and your group 14 PPO. Like that is everything that you're doing to do an effective sites of action, modes of action on Waterhemp. But I'm not gonna lie to you, it's not cheap. I mean, there is cost, but then we put that next to going down a few on the brand ladder. So we have another liquid product called Sonic Boom. It's a dual mode of action. So you're down to just 2 modes of action, and it's safentrazone and metribuzin. Now it is a little unique because of actually the crystalline formulation, and what we're kind of seeing out of that on certain soil types. In certain parts, you kind of got to watch metribuzin, and I always put a disclaimer: you always got to follow the label. Everybody hear me on this podcast. You always got to follow the label rules. But one unique thing we're kind of seeing out of the Sonic Boom is we're getting a little enhanced crop safety, I think, from this co-crystalline structure, because we're basically reducing the solubility of the metribuzin, and so getting a little bit better performance, but also a little bit more crop safety, which is kind of unique. So, but if you went farther down the brand ladder, we got a product just straight Sonic, which is safentrazone and first rate, would be some of the older, ALS chemistries. Where I'm going with this is you could see a definite difference of the 3 mode of action product with the Kyber Pro as far as length of residual. So like you're probably talking 6 to 8 weeks on that Kyber Pro. You go down to Sonic Boom, you're probably 4 to 6 weeks. You go down to Sonic, it's 3 to 5 weeks, depending on rate. So like you got to be really timely and make sure you know what you're doing from an applicator standpoint and as a manager at the farm gate, because, hey, I need to be calling the co-op because I need these beans sprayed. We always talk about 21 to 28 days later before they get up and get a lot of size. And what happened was we got some rain events where we couldn't even get in. And so you guys know the rest of the story. Then we're starting to throw kitchen sink tank mixes in here and trying to control bigger weeds. Whereas if we'd have used a little more expensive product, we probably actually saved ourselves money on the front side. Does that kind of make sense what I'm saying? So I think that was kind of the big standout. And we've always kind of known that, but I get it. It's a challenge when you got to write that check because it's real. But then I always try to remind people, like, don't forget this going into next year. So that's kind of what I saw.
Yeah. And there's some undeniable trends that have happened in the last 5 years in soybeans and everything, but is earlier planting. I think that's and lower populations, which both have weed concerns, right? In 2020, I planted on April 6th and April 7th, something like that. I planted 1 field and I was getting so much crap on social media. People are like, what are you doing? Because typically it's corn first, then soybeans. Maybe they'd even wait after corn until May and then plant. Mm-hmm. Well, I've seen more people around here that were hating on it and all that either have 2 planters and they start them at the same time, or they do their beans first and then corn. And I think that's contributing to the yield. But what that does is you don't get a lot of growth on those soybeans early, and you're asking a lot out of your pre's, mm-hmm. right? The length and then your posts, right? So that's why we need to have more of that Cadillac program so we get more out of it and we can layer in our residuals.
Yeah, we're in the same boat. That's something that we've adopted right away. You see the immediate yield benefit first year.
Yep. Are you seeing that, Brad?
We are. And I think the other thing that I see is, and it's kind of a mind shift, because if you would poll my grandpa, if he was still alive, they always, when Roundup came out, we kind of waited to get all the weeds up, if you will. We wanted to get that. We better wait a little bit and, we can get actual control. We've got to just get that school of thought out of our minds. We need to get more comfortable, I think, spraying bare ground if we can. So we've got another new soybean product. It's a group 15. It's called Inversa herbicide. So it's a encapsulated acetochlor soybean product. It can go post on corn too, but it's mainly designed for the soybean market. And it's going to be the preferred tank mix partner with Enlist One, just because we're doing everything we can to try to have those, like I said, effective sites of action, multiple modes with that system to make sure we're doing everything we can from a resistance management and an overall management standpoint on water hemp or other tough to control weeds. But what I saw this year, the folks that were able to, let's say you had the Kyber Pro, the Sonic Boom down at planting with the good burn down, coming in, I always say, write it down on the calendar. Don't go by what you're seeing out in the field. Like, just, it's good to scout. Don't be remiss. I want everybody to scout if they can, but like, put it on the calendar. Like, no, hey, I got to get back here 21 to 28 days later with maybe Enlist One, Liberty plus Inversa, right? Like, let's put that Group 15, and it doesn't have to be our product. There's plenty other Group 15s on the market. I mean, obviously I work for Corteva, but there's other good Group 15s that people can use. I'm just pleading with people, put a Group 15 with that layered residual and go a little earlier, because once the water hemp or whatever you're going after are up, we're kind of behind the 8 ball. And so if you can prevent that, that's the difference. And the folks that went early, they get to canopy quicker. Sunlight's the best thing you can do to control water hemp. If you can get that sunlight blocked out, life is good. So I think that was one of the learning lessons that we've had over the last couple of years. And I think most people are starting to get it, but it takes time. So.
Yeah. I remember driving around with Corey early this year and commenting on how clean I thought all the soybean fields looked. Your comment at that time was, well, we've had a lot of rain and it keeps reactivating.
Yeah.
But you told me to just wait and see.
Yep. You'll find who used the Cadillac program and who tried to get by with, no residual or maybe one, type of deal, or didn't spray pre. So
are you, Corey, going to change your program for next year, or did you find something that worked this year?
We've been doing the layered residuals since I've been I knew when I went earlier on the soybeans that I was asking a lot. So I try to have residuals, that Group 15 in my second pass and all that. I'd layer that in. And this year it was clean, because it was warm and it was wet. I mean, things were growing and it was easy to kill them. It's when you get those little dry pockets and things like that, it gets tough to kill weeds.
Yeah. One of the challenges that I think that I see, you were talking earlier, Tanner, about just, everybody's, or Corby, it was you, sorry, just talking about planting beans early, right? I mean, we know there's a direct correlation with, better yields typically at the end of the year. There is a cliff. You do got to watch it. But I think the challenge I see from, my side of the fence, as far as the weed control aspect, you said it, you're asking a lot more out of that pre. And one thing I'd be remiss to say, so one phenomenon that I did see that does concern me is, because we're going that early, sometimes people will forego that pre because we just got to get beans in the ground. Mm-hmm. A couple of the tools I've been talking about here, if you don't get those put on pre or right at planting up to 3 days after, you can't use them anymore, because the PPO herbicide, so that flumioxazin Valor or the piece that's, in that Kyber Pro or the Sonic Boom, it will kill your beans if they're up. Okay. So I think that's one of the concerns I see, because people just want to go. And I think it's sometimes worth like, hey, the weeds are going to come. I probably either need to be Johnny on the spot or making sure those fields I've got a plane with the applicator follow me, with the planter to get it on. Because that's the thing I've seen over the last couple of years is, if we don't do that, we lose one of our biggest tools, I think, in controlling water hemp. So that's one thing I wanted to call out.
Yeah, we saw that. We had towards the end of our bean planting season, we were following, doing a really good job, and then it rained.
Yep.
And it was like, crap. Now we were too late. Had to make a little bit of a shift on some of those acres before we got back in the field to plant again.
I will say, if you're at all skeptical or on the fence about planting beans early, though, go out to your bean fields that you harvested, go out to your corn fields that you harvested after several frosts, and look at your volunteer that's left out there. Some have more cover crop than others, right? That's what we're calling it. But the corn's all dead. We've probably had 4 or 5 hard frosts here. The corn's all dead, the volunteer corn. The beans are still green and growing. Mm-hmm. Like, they're pretty resilient little guys.
Yeah. Well, I know one of the things, my father-in-law runs the combine for us, and he's made the comment that he was very impressed at how clean the cornfields were this year. There's been a lot of new technology put into making sure that is capable and something that we can not have to worry about as far as weed pressure goes there. What's the update from your side of the book there?
Yeah, so at Corteva, we're always trying to innovate, and we do a lot with formulation technology. So I talked earlier about the Inversa. It's a different capsule. It's designed to get to the soil, and what that means is, and I'm going back to beans for a second. I'll go to corn, but like there's a lot the things you can do with formulation technology that can make these herbicides work better. Okay. And so we've taken also the same basically MO into our corn lineup. So we've got 2 new products. Well, I say new. They've been out for 2 years now, but they're still new, I think, to the market. And nothing really changes from an aspect of what I've talked about in the bean realm to the corn realm. It's still using good burn down, good multiple mode of action product. What's been neat with our corn portfolio is we've added a lot more flexibility with a couple of these tools. So Resicore Rev is going to be probably our flagship brand, and it can go pre or post in corn up to 24-inch tall corn, which before we could only go to 11-inch tall corn. And you're thinking, okay, 11 to 24, is that a big deal? But if you're a farmer or an applicator, that's a huge deal, right? So we talked about some of the weather variability and where we were at. It is a concern if you can't get in on time. And so having that option to be able to go a little bit later if need be. So Resicore Rev, I guess I should mention what's in it. It's encapsulated acetochlor. It's got clopyrrolid, which is a stinger. So that's a group 4 herbicide. That's going to be really good on some of your like Canada thistle, some of your larger seeded broadleaves, cockerburg, giant ragweed. We've got a ton of giant ragweed in northern Indiana. So it's kind of a staple up there to use it. And then it's also got mesotrione, so Callisto in there. So you've got a group 15, your group 4, and your group 27. So having that encapsulation also allows us to do a couple things from a formulation or tank mix partner aspect. So it's pretty flexible when it comes to tank mix partners. And if we're starting to see a phenomenon, at least especially in Illinois, where we're using a lot more ATS in our burn down in corn. And so Resicore Rev actually mixes really well with ATS. There's not a lot of corn herbicides that actually mix well. And it was actually designed to be able to do that. But also with that encapsulation technology, we get a little more crop safety. It's like nobody really likes to see corn that's lit up after you sprayed, which let's not kid around. Like you're spraying a weed control product that has a grass killer and a little bit as well on a corn acre, you could have some flash. Well, the formulation actually allows a lot less crop response than some of our older formulations. Switching gears, we have that other product, Cairo, which I've got it on my shirt. So it's a post only corn product. It's going to be a little bit similar to the Rev, except for it is post only. But the application window, you can go up to 24-inch tall corn with it as well. Basically similar modes of action, actually the same modes of action, but we're changing out one of the ingredients. So instead of having mesotrione like we have in the Resicore Rev, we've traded that out with a different group 27. Armazon Impact, if you will, is in there. So like we use it a lot in some of our non-GMOs acres. So we've got some of our seed corn acres, especially in Indiana, and it's been a good fit, but it's also got the stinger and the acetochlor piece in there. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. But I will say corn was much cleaner than beans. I mean, I'll echo that. I mean, it's just, and it seems like we can do a pretty good job of managing it. And I think it's just because we know we've got to do it. So like, that's always kind of been there. That I don't think that school of thought has changed a whole lot. So, I mean, what else did you guys see?
Well, you talked about the Cairo there, and that really hits home with me. We've always done 1 or 2 fields of non-GMO conventional corn. Usually it's usually my best corn, but I manage it. I manage where I put it. I make sure I don't have conventional, every other year there, because otherwise we've had seed corn before. Otherwise we just get grass problems and weed problems, especially around the edges, waterways, and that kind of stuff. This year, obviously, it's obvious that inputs from seed to iron to chemistry, it's all hasn't really come down, and we got to manage it on our end. So I have actually on my farm ordered seed, and I am on all my rotated acres except for maybe 100, 200 acres. I'm conventional.
Really?
Mm-hmm. My seed bill really didn't go down; it stayed the same.
But it didn't go up.
But I'm confident enough because I've been testing it on my farm and I've managed through it. But now I have to be even tighter on my management. So I'm going to need this Cairo to work and work good because I'm going to lean on it hard.
Yeah, it's interesting when we look at our plans for next year. We are doing 0 corn on corn.
Really?
Everything will be rotated. Okay. It's just, I don't, the market's so tough right now to predict, right? Nobody can.
Yeah.
But do you just stay the path? Do you try to overload one way or the other? I kind of feel like next year could be a good corn on corn year. Just
well, I mean, it's certainly calling for it again. Not that we need that many millions of acres of corn again. Hopefully these lower prices will curb that a little bit, but
I mean, one of the things, like I said, is just how clean our cornfields were this year. Even the wet spots, the ponds, they almost didn't grow anything.
Really?
So we had pretty good luck.
Interesting.
It probably wasn't luck. It was the chemistry. Harvest season is here, and so is your competitive advantage.
That's right. The Estes XPR3 concaves are a total game changer. Think one concave, all crops, no bands, no switching. From wheat to corn, soybeans, you're rolling non-stop. Backed by their patented technology with 250% more threshing surface, you get cleaner grain, fewer fines, and beast-level capacity, all without trading combines.
If you're interested, visit EstesPerformanceConcaves.com to upgrade your combine today. Estes XPR3, harvest smarter, faster, and better.
Are you seeing more of a shift to like I'm doing, Brad, on the non-GMO stuff?
There's definitely a school of thought, and I'm okay with it. It's just my word of caution or advice is like it's the same thing on the bean acre. Like, don't wait till those grasses get like if you're relying heavily on that Group 27 grass product that's in that Cairo, which you're going to be, you're going to need to make sure that you get out there in a timely fashion. Because Torpramazone, it's a great product that's in the Cairo. But then I always tell people, like, make sure you know what you're doing from a tank mix aspect, like read and follow the label. There's a lot of information on there about what surfactants and things. Surfactants matter. They help get that product into that plant. And that's why I always tell people that. And that's another thing I guess I saw this year is some people are like, well, I'm just going to leave out whatever surfactant I go spray. Well, it's been dry for 4 days. Like those plants and those grasses and weeds start to shut down. We need surfactants in there to help get some of these herbicides into the plant. So I nerd out on a lot of this stuff. I know not everybody does that, but it's what I do on a daily. And I just think it's really important. But I do see there definitely is. I mean, we've got a heavy pocket of, we've even got a lot of popcorn, actually. We're still, next to Nebraska, we're still the biggest popcorn growing state. So we use Cairo a ton in popcorn. Like it's actually kind of exploded in popularity. It's kind of become like the number one product in popcorn for Indiana, which it's been neat from a company aspect. But what's also been neat is we're managing weeds better. We're controlling the grasses. And I think a lot of growers are pretty satisfied with what they've seen with it.
Yeah. I would just throw in a little disclaimer. If you've never done the non-GMO before, like there's a certain people that probably shouldn't, right? It's going to take a heck of a lot more management, right? It's not just, don't just order the non-GMO and just go plant it. You got to make sure your planter's clean when you go to the next field. If you're spraying it yourself, that's usually better because you know exactly where it's at. If you're hiring the co-op or another applicator to go spray, I've seen too many times where someone carries non-GMO to the next field and you just see the end rows die and then it trickles out throughout, because even pests, like make sure if you're under heavy rootworm pressure or, that kind of stuff, it's like probably not the area. But obviously, like I said, I've tested and I know that it's a risk. It's always a risk. It could be a heavy pest year next year that wasn't this year, but got to manage it a lot more. And you got to spend up. Like, it's not like you're just a 1-for-1. You got to spend up on your chemistry program.
That's well said, Corey. That is very well said.
Yeah.
Well, I know that we had a lot of listeners and a lot of neighbors that put some very serious consideration into their fungicide applications this year, both corn and soybeans, as far as that went. And I think there's a lot of people that are disappointed and very proud of those decisions that they made, depending upon what direction they went. Of course, here in central Iowa, we got hammered with rain to where we ended up having to fall back on resources such as planes and drones to get that applied, when I think a lot of us would have preferred the ground rig avenue. But when margins are tight, it just seems like in the 6 years we've been doing this podcast, fungicide has almost always paid.
Yeah, it's always paid in beans. I mean, that's just like, for us, it's a no-brainer. We as a third-party research, it's 4 out of 5 years that it more than ROIs. Corn, we've gotten to the point where it's almost always ROIing. And after this year, I would say it definitely, I mean, even if it didn't pay next year, you're still getting the benefit from last year. I mean, I've heard some double fungicide trials up to 65, 70 bushel.
Yeah, I heard them as well.
You know, it was easily 30 to 40 bushel just on one pass. So,
and we had that high yield conversation released earlier this fall, and our guest didn't reveal the secret sauce to some of his high yield, but it was hinted at. It was timing and mixture, and it had to have been fungicide.
Yeah,
he had to have been doing multiple passes of fungicide and had that broken down as to early, mid again, and late.
Yep.
That's the only thing that would have made sense when he didn't tell us the answer.
What are you seeing on the fungicide realm, Brad?
It's interesting. Like everything we were talking weed control, corn was pretty darn clean. What was not clean was the corn when it came to disease. Like we had a couple interns and some like associate territory managers, people that we trained, and the comment that I made to them, like, walk out into, like, you want a hands-on education this year, because we had those rainfall events, especially in that northern Indiana corridor. Go out there, take your disease ID book, and you're going to find everything from northern to gray to southern and tar spot. I mean, like, you name it, it was out there. And so it was, we're probably a little bit different in Indiana and Eastern Illinois. I'll say for our southern Indiana, southern Illinois market, it's almost like it's at least a one pass fungicide, no matter what. I mean, our disease triangle, our pressure, we always have it. We've always got the pathogen. It seems like we always get the weather that's conducive to doing it. So I will say our ROI on fungicide from that aspect is probably a little bit better but I think it's the same phenomenon that you're seeing. But, it's the same conversation that I think we're having earlier on the bean. People were looking at cost versus ROI, and it's a real conversation. And so if you don't think you have that left in your budget, it was a hard decision that I think some people obviously regretted this fall, because the rust, came in and it was not good. So, I mean, I'm super excited. So our portfolio before till now, we just got a new product labeled called Farm4Profit. It's a new 3-way fungicide. That's going to include, so you got your group 11, your group 3, but now we're also going to have a new SDHI. It's called Fluindapyr. That is an SDHI that's going to be a really nice addition for southern rust control. It's also going to give you a little bit more residual. You guys obviously I'm sure you've seen the ex post of the Farm4Profit blip, where a guy did a 2-application fungicide there in Iowa. I think he ended up, he put Farm4Profit on, I think VTR1, came back with Approach Prima, I think about 20 to 21 days later, something like that. I think it was like a 49 bushel return is some of the data that I saw out of it, which is just, I mean, it's incredible, right? I mean, that's, we talk about ROI. I mean, and that's the question I think we get, the high management aspect, do we do 2 applications? Do we do 1? Like, we've got pockets where we know we've got tar spot really bad. Those are applications, depending on how the year's going, we may do a 2 application. So, but, it's tough sometimes, because it seems like a lot of money at the time. I mean, it really does. But I always tell people fungicides aren't, I mean, they're preventative and curative, but they also help a lot with just overall plant health. I mean, the strobe piece in there does a lot to help mitigate some of that stress. I think that we saw, like, we had some pockets where disease pressure wasn't as bad, but I think the folks that still used Approach Prima, they saw a benefit from that plant maybe going under a little bit less stress. And it's Approach Prima, where it's priced in the market. Our ROI has a better probably chance, because it is probably a mid to lower tier cost when it comes to fungicide. So I think it'll be interesting to see what things work out next year. But I know the folks that had the southern rust, that's going to be on probably every extension or every grower meeting I go to here for the next 4 months. That's going to be the conversation. And I think it's just like we were talking earlier about Waterhemp control and beans, like just managing all the risks, because that's what we're doing at the end of the day as a farmer. Is you're just trying to mitigate as many risks as I can while still being profitable. And I'm just super excited about us having that other brand come into the Corteva ladder, just having that 3-way that we have not had. I'm super pumped about. So,
yeah. Well, I was one of the ones that after the first application shut the checkbook. It was like, it was just tough. Well, and for us, we couldn't get in the field physically with our own sprayer. We have a Hagie high boy sprayer. So we're used to being able to spray it ourselves, and now we're hiring a drone to do it. Right. So that hurt. So we hired him for the first round and we shut it off, and I wish we wouldn't have. But what you said about stock quality and at harvest, that's what we've always justified it with. I've always said, if it just pays for itself, you're losing, right? And that's with a lot of products, but probably not with fungicide. You still get that harvest quality stock. I mean, look at how much down corn there is scattered about the country right now. People having a headache because if it does go down, what was your opportunity cost then? You're not getting it all. Those hours on that combine's expensive.
We had a couple of neighbors that, we know they didn't spray. Mm-hmm. And one of them was Facebook famous because they were using a pitchfork to put the corn into their corn head because it wasn't standing anymore. We got a good partner of ours, Maya Cornheads, that would have solved that for him without having to use a pitchfork. But what a headache that you just don't need to deal with.
Yeah, no, I don't ever want to pick another acre of down corn after the derecho 5 years ago. And anything I can do to prevent it, no thanks. I don't want that again.
Yeah, I tell you what, those that saw the benefit and those that believe, those that didn't apply and believe there was benefit, I bet you that's a really tough answer to give next year as a no.
Yeah. I think
we forget so fast.
I know. I think fungicide is going to be a big thing. I think the thing that opened my mind this year, Southern Rust was a great teacher for us. We've had all these high yield guys coming in and saying we're stopping management too early. We really need to be pushing, like a lot of us, especially with our own sprayers, like we want to be done at the end of July. We've been in the sprayer all dang summer long. Like we want to go to the state fair, the county fair. We want to go on vacation. It's like, and now you're telling us we got to fire it back up and go over it all again. But hey, 49 bushels to the acre, that'll pay for a sprayer and a lot of vacations.
We hope.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Oh, that's good. Well, what have we missed, Brad? Is there anything else you saw from 25 that might matter for 26?
So, I mean, we talked about, a lot of the weed aspects. I mean, the thing that I still think about, we talked about early wet, nitrogen management. I mean, so we sell Inserve and Instinct for nitrogen stabilizers. Inserve is gonna celebrate 50 years, which is bizarre to me that product's been around that long. But I think it attests to the fact that it's proven. And I get, it's been around. It seems old, but there's nothing on the market that can replace what it does. And if you're doing anhydrous ammonia and you haven't used Inserve, I don't know if you haven't done it in the last 50 years, I'm going to try to tell you, maybe try it one time. Put it on a few fields, do some splits, do your own trials. I think nitrogen management is just another aspect for me that it's near and dear to my heart because, a couple of years ago, my uncle, they weren't doing it. They got some hog manure and things like that, and they put some Instinct in with it. And I think seeing the benefit of being able to save some of that nitrogen and basically reduce that cost. I mean, obviously that's an input that's also high. And so you're spending a little bit of money to try to extend that nitrogen later in the season. And I think we've seen a lot of benefits of it over the years. So that'd be the other thing I'd add. If we get up into if I talk to people outside of my geography, so we get up towards your way to the Northern Plains, into the Dakotas, we do have some other new products. I think one thing neat about Corteva, we're always trying to innovate and make new things. There is a new wheat product. Now, we don't use it here in the Midwest just because of the rotation for us, because we do mostly double crop wheat. But where you've got the true wheat acres, there's a new product called Tolvera that we just launched last year. It's got a new Group 27 topyrolate, which has really been neat to see, where you got some tough to control kochia and things like that. It's having a heck of a fit for those guys, and it is only a 9-month rotation to soybeans, which for them is a really good thing. So having that tool, I think, up in the plains and the Dakotas is a really neat thing. That when I get outside of our geography, I get so focused on just corn and beans, and we do a little bit of winter wheat down our way, but it's a lot less than probably what it used to be. So outside of that, I mean, I always bring it up. You said it. Don't get the short-term amnesia here over the winter. Like, just make a plan, have a plan A, B, and C. I always joke with a lot of growers, like, we know Mother Nature events are going to happen. but use the tools that are available from the manufacturers and use them to the best of your ability, and be ready to shift and be able to do potential things. But try not to cut yourself or save yourself into prosperity, because I always say the Waterhemp, it does not know the price of grain. It just doesn't know that, actually. So, and it's going to be there. I will tell you, we didn't talk about it, but what the interesting thing I see is just the germination patterns on Waterhemp. It seems like we're germinating earlier and earlier, and that's going to create, I think, challenges for us going forward. But super excited about next year. Like I told you at the beginning, not everybody's 100% happy with how the year turned out, but I think everybody's going to come back and try it again. But so just be cognizant of what you're doing, using those multiple modes of action, and do the best you can. So I appreciate, being here with you guys today.
Yeah, we appreciate you being here too. And that in-serve turning 50, I think what's old is new again. At least that's the stuff my wife's been bringing back to the house, whether it's a new old dresser that we've got, or a nightstand, or even a hat rack.
Yeah.
Because of all the hats that we don't have room for here that just still end up at the house. Brad, we appreciate the time you spent. If someone wants to learn more about our Corteva product, how best do they do that?
Easiest thing you can do is just go to Corteva.us, and that's where you can kind of you can pick your product, or pick basically what your input or what you want to look for, and it'll kind of take you where you need to go. So Corteva.us, best place to go.
Yeah, we know that you're a member of that Corteva team, but listeners, for you, ultimately, the purpose of this show is to really point out some of those valuable things to consider, whether it's overlapping residuals or picking a fungicide, and making sure that those applications are done at the right time. And as Brad so eloquently said, let's make a couple of plans for next year and have a reason as to why those things are in those plans, to be able to make the decisions easier on you in season and a lot less emotion.
It's always a lot easier if you have a plan.
Yep.
Or a budget or all that. Yep.
Yeah. And then I just think of that meme of, what's the plan? Throw it out the window. Just go with the flow.
Yeah.
But no, thanks again, Brad. We appreciate you. We also appreciate that partnership with Corteva, and look forward to doing more in 2026.
Farm4Profit Podcast. Take a listen, have a blast. Farm4Profit Podcast.